I've had some pretty interesting recordings in my career. I do remember the very first recording, which was Don't Mess With My Man. You could have my husband, but please don't mess with my man. Dr. John played guitar. Um, I'm trying to think who was on piano. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Eddie Bow was on piano, but I'm not positive on that. This is just kind of guessing. And Robert Parker played the solo that you hear on there, the man who made Barefoot, and he played the solo on there. I'm not sure who the drummer was, but the reason I remember those guys because I've worked with them over the years since that time, and we reminisce about the recording session. I met Johnny Adams for the first time doing, we used to call it the Christmas Chitlin Circuit, working with a promoter named Percy Stovall, who was also managing quite a few of us at that time. Percy Stovall used to put together a show, and at the time that I met Johnny, I think he had just had a song out called I Won't Cry. And it was burning up the Louisiana charts, and he was the star, and I had my little one record, You Could Have My Husband, but Please Don't Mess With My Man, and I was singing other people's songs as well. And I met Johnny for the first time to work with him, and he was never the prima donna type person. Johnny was always a very human type of person. He spoke to everybody, he was friends with everybody, was what I call a very natty dresser. I mean, everything had to match. His suits were perfectly fit. I think he had them all tailored because he wasn't a very fat person. He was a very thin man, but he always dressed immaculately. But he was a very friendly person, and to be so talented, he had room to be a diva if he wanted to be, but he was never that kind of a person. All these guys, you could say we kind of hung around. The Dewdrop was the hanging place during the daytime when there wasn't shows going on. His Mr. Pena had a restaurant in the back. His brother rather had a restaurant in the back, and you can always go there and get some bullets, and bullets were called beans, the red beans. And so everybody kind of congregated at the Dewdrop and passed the time about what they're doing. If they have some gigs where they're going out of the country, they would discuss those and what's going on in the music scene, who's doing what and how, and that sort of thing. Well, when It's Raining was recorded, I was approximately 19 or 20, somewhere in there. It was a natural song for me to sing in terms of where I'm living in terms of New Orleans, as most folk who live in Louisiana know that New Orleans does get its share of water and rain when other cities in Louisiana don't get nearly as much rain. But New Orleans is surrounded by water, and we get rain somewhere in the city every other day. Very rarely do we have long, dry spells. So I guess when Alan Toussaint was writing that song, he was thinking in terms of how often we get rain and how various situations can present themselves at that time. And when I did it, I was still kind of naive about, writing songs with futuristic thoughts in my head. I was just happy to be recording still because It's Raining was like about the fourth recording session that I'd had in my career, so I was still kind of new at this recording business and this stardom thing. I was still kind of new at that. Speaking of some of my early recordings and the significant titles, such as I Wish Someone Would Care, which was recorded in 1964, and Time Is on My Side, which was also recorded at the same session in 1964, they can still be said to be applicable to my career nowadays. First of all, I discovered that a lot of people did care when Katrina came, and I discovered that I was missing and I didn't know I was missing. And of course, the career kind of blossomed out of that. And the other side of that, I can say that time is still on my side because here I am, this is 2008 and I'm 67 years old and I still have a very vibrant career going. So song titles do have a little premonitions in them. It seems that over the time that I've been in show business, a storm has played a major role in my career, starting with Betsy. Betsy came along. I got divorced from my second husband after Betsy. And when Camille came along, Camille wiped out a lot of my work along the coast of Mississippi and portions of Louisiana, so there was a lull there. And so I decided to go to California and try to get an upstart with my career, kick it up a notch, as we would say. And it didn't happen, so I wound up getting a day job. And of course, I had my children with me, so I had to feed them. And California wasn't as welcoming as I thought it was going to be career-wise, so I took a day job. And I stayed out there until 1976, and then I came back to New Orleans. So when I did come back and Cyril realized that I wasn't with anyone, Mr. Vitter decided he would do a Safe With Me. And Safe With Me was one of those Eye in the Storm, another storm song. It seems that over the years, every time I record a CD, or we used to call them albums, every album that I've recorded, there's something on there about either rain or some water or a storm. And Safe With Me was a song that was a country song when I heard it. It was done by a country music artist, and I did it in a disco style, and it made a pretty good little bit of noise around Louisiana.
I made my reservations, I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll find somebody new and there'll be no more sorrow. That's what I say each time, but I can't follow through. I can't break away, though you make me cry, I can't break away.
When I started in this business, there were no Grammys. Because even back in 1964, when I was on the Imperial label, I never thought Grammy. I mean, I was just praying for a hit. And when my career didn't really take off to that magnitude, I wasn't totally disappointed. I didn't dwell on it. I was making enough money to support my family and my kids. And I never dwelled on what I didn't get or how come I haven't been, nominated for this or nominated for that. My thing was, once I got back into the city and I was working on a regular basis, that was my biggest deal, to stay busy, pay my bills, and accomplish those living things that you need to do to survive. So when I got the first nomination, it was more of a shock to me than it was to anybody. And when I won it, it was really a big shock, because I had guessed the other two times that I had been nominated. I went there knowing I wasn't going to win. It was just a gut feeling that I knew that I was not going to win. And when I went the third time, I didn't have any feelings one way or the other. I just wanted to go because it was the Grammys. It was something to do after Katrina to get my mind off of what we were going through. And I went, but my husband kept saying, honey, you're going to get it. I said, yeah, right. And that was my attitude, but I wanted to go because I wanted to be there to hear my name called. Even if it didn't come up as the winner, I wanted to hear it mentioned among the nominees. I went from not having a job. The next day I went to the studio, and next week I had a record out, and the 2 weeks from that I was on the road working. That doesn't happen for everyone that same way. And I did a lot of learning along the way. I didn't have the business aspects. I didn't know that. I went back to school and got a degree in business studies and learned a little bit more about the business aspect. And that's something else I always tell the young people. If you're going to get in here, remember the word is show business. Underline the business part. Learn the business aspect of it. Treat it like it's a business. Yes, you love it, but treat it like it's a business. It's a wonderful career. It has its ups and downs, but I mean, you can only learn to appreciate the ups when you've had the downs. If you've never had the downs, then you don't know what it feels like to be up and enjoy the fact that you're up.